right, I think we're gonna get started. Are we live or almost there?
You are live, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, so at 5:02, I call to order the Public Works and Utilities Committee meeting on February 19th, 2024. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes, Madam Chair. Councillor Lee Garcia.
Here.
Councillor Michael Garcia.
Present.
Councillor Romero Worth.
She's excused.
Councillor Alma Castro.
Present.
And Chair Chavez.
Here, thank you.
You have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Appreciate that. Next is approval of the agenda. Is there any changes from committee members or staff for the agenda today?
No changes from staff, Madam Chair.
All right, can I have a motion, please?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Next is approval of the consent agenda. Last I heard, there wasn't any items pulled. Committee members, do you have any questions, any items that need to be pulled today? We may not have staff, but all right, if not, let me have a motion, please.
Approve.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. If I can get a roll call vote.
Yes, Councillor Lee Garcia.
Yes.
Councillor Michael Garcia.
Yes.
Councillor Alma Castro.
Yes.
And Chair Chavez.
Yes.
Motion passes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next is our presentation informational items, and we have two presentations today. Our first presentation is complete streets maintenance, and we will be provided that presentation by our Public Works Director, Regina Wheeler.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, members of the committee. We're super excited to be here. A big piece of the Complete Streets Division to talk to you this evening and talk about our business that we do. Okay, great. So the impetus of this presentation is partly potholes. And I know that you guys know this, but we're going to make it super clear. There's a whole lot more to streets and maintaining them than filling potholes. So we're going to sort of paint the big picture and introduce you to some of the fantastic people that do this work for the city. We'll talk a little bit about the Complete Streets Division overall, but this conversation about potholes and maintenance really only deals with a small portion of the Complete Streets Division. You can see on this slide, the first two columns is what we'll talk about tonight. Romello will be presenting on the capital projects. And then the maintenance team and myself will be presenting on roadway and sidewalk maintenance. The Complete Streets Division has a whole bunch of more activities that it does, including permitting, use of our right-of-way, either accessing it through driveways or cutting into it for utilities, which happens a lot, as you can see all over the town. So we issue those permits, we inspect the work, we inspect their traffic control plans, and we also follow up for 2 years on the warranty period of every patch to make sure that the patch that the vendor put there stays good for 2 years to try to maintain the quality of our roads. We have a traffic operations team, and that term might not be familiar to you, but those are the teams that manage our signals, street lights, and signs and striping. Really important safety features on roads. Almost, you kind of forget until they're not there, and then you feel like something's missing, but you're not sure what. So this team is really doing great work now. We're excited to have been joined by a professional engineer who has a specialty in signal timing. So you might have noticed that Cerrillos and St. Francis are more pleasant to drive on because those signals are now timed for the speed limit. They're also doing great work with replacing crosswalks and stop bars at intersections, big safety improvements. But we'll talk more about them another time and introduce them another time. Traffic calming is a big one. You hear about this a lot. We have a professional engineer that's under contract with us who handles all of those. There's a defined process and people get into the queue and we actually follow through, and we've implemented some traffic calming. The big news about traffic calming is really that we now are doing everything we can to engineer our roads to build traffic calming in. So you don't want big wide lanes with no, no medians and no street trees. Like that causes people to drive faster. So you design the road for traffic calming, and Rumela is leading that for our internal capital projects. And then we also have that influence through the last column here, which is the development review. So Public Works is highly involved in land use permitting. Any developer that submits to develop land gets reviews for their traffic studies. They get review for their traffic design. They get review for their stormwater handling by our stormwater team. They get review for any parks by our parks team. And so there's a lot where we're baking in the vision of the governing body into these private developments so that they're slower neighborhood streets with open space and low impact stormwater design. So a lot of great work going on in this team. I'll show you an org chart of the team. It's a small and mighty team that's taking care of all of our right-of-ways here. This actually used to be two separate divisions. So the team on the far left of your screen, under the street superintendent, the streets maintenance team, and and that's kind of almost it. And a couple other people, that was the streets division. And then everybody else was in the engineering division. And, they never saw each other very much and they didn't get to talk very much. And we combined these at like a year and a half ago. And this team just collaborates like crazy. The maintenance people love to give input on the project designs and new capital projects and vice versa. The capital projects love to leverage the expertise of the maintenance team. They can help us point us in directions about where the work is needed. It's just a really successful combination. The only thing that's not that successful about it is it's a really complicated, very, very busy division that nobody else but me seems to want to lead. So we've had a vacancy in the division director for 3 years. But it's posting, and we're gonna, really hope to attract a really fantastic leader for this team. And so you can see that how the teams are grouped together. The streets maintenance team is on the far left. You have your administrative team kind of in the middle. Next is the capital projects team under Rumela. And then on the far right is that traffic operations team. These folks, far left and far right are all on call 24/7. Absolutely. The traffic operations team are out there all the time. Our streets maintenance team is out there constantly for 24/7 calls. And then at the top, you have 2 engineers. We have our traffic engineer, Gene Wolfenbarger, that we're super happy to have had join us about a year and a half ago. And then we have our drainage engineer, which has been vacant for 5.5 years, but we continue to be optimistic that we'll be able to fill that position as well. So that's kind of a picture of the team. It's surprising there's not even 60 FTEs that do all this work for all of our streets, but it's an awesome team. So to start diving in a little bit into the maintenance section, this small team itself does a huge amount of work. This team does sweeping, drainage, maintenance and operations, which is to say, well, I'll just go through the list and then I'll say a little bit more. Of course, the pavement, which we'll talk a lot more about the pavement part. The grading, which is for dirt roads, right? So we have to have the dirt roads graded, and concrete work, which is fixing our sidewalks and curb ramps. We don't do most of the curb ramps ourselves, but we do have an in-house concrete team that tackles about 30 great projects a year. So what we do is divide that whole streets maintenance team into crews. So there's a sweeping crew, a drainage crew, a pavement crew, a grading crew, and a concrete crew. And crew of about five people. And there is some sharing and cross training, of course. So for instance, in the spring, we do pothole paloozas, as you might have heard or read in the paper if you weren't here as a counselor yet. And that's when everybody on the streets maintenance team does potholes for, a week or 2, and we fill a whole bunch of them. Using 2 pothole paloozas and our regular work that we've done in this past year, we filled over 6,000 potholes in the last calendar year, 2023. And that work is led by Marcos Esquivel, and he's going to take a few minutes to talk to you a little bit about that work as well. We have some new equipment so that actually, I feel like we do this. I'm just going to touch on this and then we'll go back to the last slide and then you guys will talk. So pavement maintenance is a complex strategy. It's not just about filling potholes. It's everything from preserving the good pavement after you lay it down with things like crack sealing, that's when you see that black tar in the cracks. And fog sealing, that's when you kind of see a black tar that kind of just went all over the road and it looks really good and it kind of looks a little sticky. Those two things can help extend the life of the pavement so that it gets pothole. It takes longer to get a pothole in it. It takes longer to get more cracks in it. It preserves your pavement. We have not been doing much of this because when we walked in the door 5 years ago, it was all in such a kind of a condition that you just needed to do pavement rehabilitation, which is the third one there, which is where you mill off the top 2 inches, then you put new asphalt on. Since we've been investing $3 to $5 million a year, we actually have some roads now that should be fog sealed. All that stuff we paved over the last 3 years should be fog sealed now. So we'll start adding that to our pavement plan, our pavement maintenance strategy. And then there's pavement repairs, of course, and that's the pothole filling and, small mill and fill. And Marcos can tell you a little bit about that. And then there's whole roadway reconstruction. And that's where you've just basically lost the road and you have to get all the way down there and do the subgrade and the pavement. For instance, a good example of that is Paseo de las Vistas up to the transfer station. That one you'll be seeing about a mile or so of that getting pavement rehabilitated, reconstructed this year. And then we'll get the rest of it when we get a little bit more funding, but that's a big job. And we have Mark Brooks here to talk to you a little bit about that. And then I'll just go through these lists a little bit better here. We have Felipe Trujillo, who's the street superintendent here to talk to you a little bit about plowing, which is not on this list because when it snows, everybody on deck's snowplow operator. But anyway, so sweeping is pretty self-explanatory. It's actually a big, gigantic job. You might have seen, I think the streets look really good right now. You guys have went out there and because we put the scoria down to reduce ice and then that makes a mess and we have to clean it up and it's a vicious cycle a little bit, but it's beginning to look really good. Drainage is where we have to go in and get the silt and garbage out of the culverts. And it's interesting, in the old days, they didn't design culverts for the fact that you were going to be getting silt in them with low flow type of rain incidences and snow incidents. Now we do design culverts for the silt, but the old culverts are not designed that way. This is a huge job. There are thousands of culverts that we go through, that this team goes through and tries to keep clear. And, 2 big times that you need to do that are before the monsoons start and after they're done because the culverts are probably full again. We'll talk about pavement more. Grading, of course, is grading. And actually, Felipe would be a great one to talk about the grading because he leads that team as well as having been, of course, our superintendent for many years. And then the concrete team, I learned a lot about this over the last couple of years. These jobs take at least a week, so there's bad sidewalk, maybe there's a curb ramp, the gutter needs to be cleaned. They have to dig all that up, just jackhammer it out of there, get all the old bad stuff out of there, frame up, as you can see in the picture, the new sidewalk and ramps, and then pour that whole thing. It's a big job. You'll see a whole line of equipment on the road while they're doing this. And it takes, like a week of project. And so we can get about 30 projects done a year with this pavement concrete repair crew. And so what we also do to repair sidewalks is we hire contractors to repair the private ones that we've given notices of violation. So if a private property owner doesn't respond to a notice of violation and make a repair, then we hire a contractor, and that makes it really clear of what the bill is to send the customer to. It's like, okay, this costs that because the contractor billed us that to do it. And we've been working really hard to make that a very good price too, so that that homeowners are getting a good deal for the work that we do, as well as really improving the sidewalks throughout the city. We only get behind on that every year. We get probably 60 complaints about sidewalks. We can only tackle probably 40 of them. The team is extremely small, and they do many, many other things besides the private sidewalk. So we are not proactive on sidewalk inspections. We are only reactive at this point. So with that, I'd like to bring up Felipe. It would be appropriate for you to be the first one to address the committee. We're so glad to have you here. Maybe you could tell us about that. Sure.
So, as Regina said, my name is Felipe Trujillo. I've been with the streets department now for 20 years. I've worked in parks and rec. I've worked in sanitation and ESD. I worked from the way on the bottom as a maintenance worker, all the way up operators, supervisor, now it's superintendent. Got 5 great supervisors that I supervise, great. They're professionals in their field. I got a great team. I got a great team of not only supervisors, but great team of operators and maintenance workers and seniors. So we do a good job, and with very little, we seem that we do good. We could always do better with more. But definitely along with all these lines of sweeping, drainage, pavement, grading and concrete, we also do snow removal as well. So as you guys all know, in streets, paved streets alone, we close to 2,000 lane miles of city paved road that we maintain. And snow removal, you know, we work off of priorities when we're doing the snow removals. We do priority 1s, 2s, and 3s in all our areas. We have up to area 1 north, area 1 south, area 2, 3, and 4. We also now maintain Cerrillos Road, St. Michael's Drive, and hotspots. And hotspots consist of comprised of shaded areas or steep slopes in troubled areas throughout the city. Along those, we also maintain the dirt roads for plowing or adding sand for traction in snow removal. We run 2 12-hour shifts on snow removal. We run 7 big tandem trucks to cover all the areas that we need to, that are our high volume, and 2 smaller dump trucks with salt spreaders and plows as well for the downtown area and some troubled area for hotspots. We operate with 2 motor graders taking care of the dirt roads, and we use a loader when we're removing snow in the downtown area, or even ice removal during certain times. So, you know, the only roads that we do not really maintain are the ones that are supposed to be maintained by the NMDOT, which would comprise of St. Francis Drive or Artist Road. Along all those, anything that we do not take care of, that we do take care of would be requests or complaints that we have through constituent services that come in that we need to take care of. Once the storm is pretty manageable, then we're able to get out there and take care of the complaints as they come. Grading of roads. Grading of roads, we maintain around 80 miles of dirt roads throughout the city. Believe it or not, we got a lot of dirt roads out in the city limits. And it consists of a motor grader, water truck, and a roller for compaction. During winter, it's a little harder to go and grade a road. You have a lot of moisture in the road. It's frozen in areas. If you have sand on the road, sand freezes a lot more than just the regular caliche or the road base course that's on there. Several years ago, the city had given us a grant for $2.2 million to go and lay base course, good quality base course throughout all the city dirt roads. And we have no less than 6 to 8 inches on some of our dirt roads. There's still some dirt roads that we still need to go and place base course on, but we still go out and maintain it. It's a lot of work. It's not just going out there, cutting the road, taking out the potholes and just making it a smooth surface. You got to take an accountability of proper drainage, where the water's got to go, especially. You're not going to put a problem down the road, but a crown in the road and good material on the road. And we've done that. Street sweeping, we have 2 crews. 1 crew at night that takes care of all the main drags with low, very little traffic out there. So we're able to do it at late night, midnight. And then we have a daytime crew that, because of the noise ordinance, they're able to get into the residential areas and go and sweep into the residential. Concrete crew, I could generally say that we've come up in numbers with some of our employees. For several years, our patching crew and concrete crew, which really were just 2 people. And they were taking care of all the sidewalks along that time. We've actually come up in numbers and we have 2 separate crews right now. So that's been a help. But again, we could do so much more with more people, more money, more equipment, I've seen this department actually be up really high in numbers. And I've seen them at the lowest. 4 years ago, we were doing snow removal and all city work with 11 people. You know, and we've actually come up to, I believe now 24, 25 people. So it's been great. It's been very nice. I appreciate everything you guys have done in helping us get this and accomplish this stuff.
Thank you, councilors, for allowing me to speak. My name is Marcos Esquivel. I've been involved in street maintenance for 16 years, 6 at the city of Clovis, and then 10 here, 6 as a supervisor. Right now, my crew consists of 4 amazing workers, 2 operators and 2 maintenance workers, and then we have 1 vacancy we're going to be filling soon, hopefully. So what we do, I'll give you guys kind of a 101. You may know, you might not know, we're in charge of the street maintenance throughout the town from back of curb to back of curb. I handle the asphalt itself. Generally speaking, there's a direct correlation with the conditions of the roads, directly correlated with potholes, right? So the potholes kind of tell you the story of the overall condition of the road. So the way a pothole generally forms is the minute you put down that nice, smooth asphalt surface and that last roller makes his pass, you see the nice hot smoke steaming off of it and everybody's anxious to get on it. The minute you see that, the road starts to deteriorate. Okay, so there's processes in place that we do to try and maintain that road. But the correlation with potholes is generally what happens is once the road starts to deteriorate, you start to get micro cracks in the surface, right? And those cracks grow. Takes usually about 2 years before you have to start doing some purposeful maintenance on those cracks. But the cracks allow water to penetrate. As the water penetrates, it freezes and thaws right with the winter, and it creates a pocket or a cavity on the subgrade. And then, of course, as traffic passes over, the asphalt collapses and eventually it starts to pop out. That's kind of how you get your potholes. Well, that deterioration is called fatiguing. We call it gatoring, okay? So generally what that tells you, if you have small localized gatoring, so you have an area that looks like alligator skin on a road, and maybe on that whole length of the road, you just see that one spot, that's localized. That little spot in the subgrade can be repaired. And we have 2 types of repairs that we do. We have either permanent repairs or we have temporary repairs, okay? Before I get into those, the larger gatored sections you see, or the whole roadway where you see ruts in the road or you see gatoring throughout, that already tells you that that road, the whole subgrade, the structure itself is deteriorated and that needs to be mill and filled, that Mark will explain a little bit more about, or that whole roadway needs to be replaced. But by the time you see all that gatoring, looks like alligator skin, the whole length of the road or big sections, that road's already structurally unsound, okay? So when we are doing pothole patches, the permanent patches that we do, if you do see that gatored section of road, we actually go in and we either mill out with one of our milling machines or a jackhammer or, saw cut that entire fatigue section of road. And then we dig up the subgrade, the base course in the subgrade, and then we got to get to dry ground. We rebuild that up and then tack the hole down and put down a new mat of asphalt. For us, those are generally, our department typically will do, maybe a 10 by 10 section. We handle smaller stuff. We can do bigger sections of road if we need to, but sometimes if it's at all possible for those larger sections, we'll pass it off to Mark Brooks to address. But we can handle some pretty significant sizes, but again, with our crew and our equipment, we're kind of limited to the extent of a patch that we can do. But a permanent patch is that, right? So we use hot mix asphalt, we tack it, we put the hot mix, we roll it, and that pothole is now permanently fixed, okay? That's ideal. That happens throughout the year under perfect weather conditions, right? We have to have about 50 degrees and rising to use hot mix. We also have to have the cooperation of our plants. We have 2 local hot plants, and we're kind of at their mercy for hot mix. One of them struggles a lot of times with just equipment breaking down and stuff. But when we do most of our permanent repairs, it's when the temps are already up and the plants are kind of running full bore where we can get the mix as we need it. The temporary repairs, we have 3 different materials that we like to use. We have a material called PermaPatch, and this is kind of what we call a throw and go material. It's designed that you can throw it in a hole that's filled with small debris, a hole that has standing water in it. And this material in particular holds up really well in cold conditions. This has actually been a godsend for us in terms of having to return in the winter to the same hole, sometimes 3 or 4 times a day. This PermaPatch material is actually holding where We can go back to a hole thinking it's the same hole, but the material's still in place and the gated area around it has now popped out. So it's a really good material. That's what we do the vast majority of our patching with now. And then we also have a winter blend of UPM, which is another material. The hole gets blown out and it's another just aggregate with binder on it that sticks to the road. The reason we have both is the UPM, the PermaPatch works really well in cold conditions, but the material bags itself turn into bricks in the cold and they're really difficult to work with. It's hard to get the material out of the bags. So in cold temperatures, we have a bulk mix called UPM that we can actually warm in some of our patching trailers, so it's workable. And then finally, we use a material called BTAP. It's called Better Than Asphalt Patch, and this is recycled asphalt shingles with a little bit of asphalt binder in it. And this is designed to actually kind of just seal gated sections of roadway. It holds really well. We use that to kind of try and hold the roads together to get us through winter. But again, we have to kind of pick and choose where we're going to put it down. Sometimes it holds really well, sometimes it doesn't. It's a newer product, but they're still kind of tinkering with trying to get it, refined. But yeah, those are our temporary fixes. And then just to give you an idea with those temporary fixes, the expense of the materials we use annually comes out to about $111,000 in patching material. And then after that, that's kind of your pothole 101, what we do. We also do mill and fill pavement rehabilitation. Mark Brooks has a running list that he keeps throughout the year on the roadways that we want to get done. He has those broken into districts. And then a couple of times a year, him and I will get together and I'll do a pivot table on my Excel spreadsheet where I log all the pothole repairs we do. Everything we do, we log. And then I'll get a general idea. I already pretty much know just by complaints, but we'll get an idea of the amount of potholes we have in certain areas. And then we'll use those potholes to figure out. We're on those lists. He goes a lot more extensive into it, but we're on those lists. We need to put the roads in priority to get repaved or milled and filled. Preventative maintenance, like Regina was talking about, there's surface treatments that we need to start doing more often. The surface treatments, there's no structural value to them other than preservation of the road, right? So these are only cosmetic, but the cosmetic they do bring advantages, like they seal the cracks, prevent water or moisture penetration, and they add traction, they add friction to the road. But those are ultimately, like Regina stated, there's crack sealing, there's fog sealing, slurry sealing, and chip sealing. The crack sealing is what we just started doing last year in October. And in 2 months, this is again the one where you get cracks up to 3 inches. We'll go in, we'll melt asphalt, and there's a crack seal machine that we use, and we fill those cracks to prevent penetration, and it helps preserve the road for about 2 to 4 years, 2 to 5 years actually. It increases the lifespan of the road. We started in August of 2023, and about 2 month period, our crews were able to do over 70,000 lane feet at about half the cost of what it costs to hire a contractor. We're at $1.48 a pound, where the contractors are about $4 a pound. It might be even more this year. So the crews are doing the work. Again, we're limited by what we're doing, because if we're crack sealing, we're not patching it. You know what I mean? So, so like Phil said, if we had more crew, we can do more. But yeah, I don't know if you guys have any questions on any of the surface treatments, or if you want any more data on what we do. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, members of the committee. And then as Marcos referred to, we would like to have Mark Brooks talk to you a little bit about our pavement rehabilitation program. Counselors that have been with us for some time are very aware that you've been appropriating about $3 million a year towards pavement rehabilitation. Mark will talk a little bit about what the level of investment needs to be for us to sort of get ahead of this thing where it seems like we're never catching up with the condition of the roads. And here is the list that was appropriated with the fiscal year 24 budget and the status. And I have to say, Mark Brooks is an amazing element of our Complete Streets team. He's a legend, and he's leaving. Mark just announced his retirement. So this is his last month with the city. It's been a huge honor to work with him, and I've learned so much, and I'm so grateful for his contributions. And so he actually is on Ramella's team. We do have the position posted already, and we'll be hoping to find somebody with even 10% of the knowledge and expertise that Mark brings to the table. So Mark, we'd love to.
You know, like you said, I've been with the city for over 25 years. So I've decided to retire and move on. But you know, what I've done with the city is for the last 7 years, I run the rehabilitation on the city roads. And like Regina said, depending on how much is appropriated, depends on how much we can do. When I first came in, 7 years ago, we were in the middle of the gas tax bond. We had over $10 million to spend, which we were able to do quite a bit of work. But we have received money every year, and according to that chart, last year we were appropriated. We're planning on doing nine roads and 10 with Paseo de las Vistas. Paseo de las Vistas was funded through state appropriation funds and then funds that we had left over from some of the other projects that we were doing. So we put them together and come up with basically the $1 million that we needed to do the section of Paseo de las Vistas. And you know, there's two different types. There's the roads that we come in and we what we call mill and fill. We take a big machine in there, we cut out 1.5 to 2 inches, and then we go back in and we refill it. And that type of process will give you 7 to 8 years worth of life on that road, which can be extended in several different ways. Like Marco said, you can go in about 4 years and start crack sealing, which will preserve what we've done. And then in about 5 or 6 years, you go in and you fog seal. And those are the things that we're trying to get into a situation where we can start routinely doing those, because the roads that we did 7 years ago, like Siringo, Zia, the section of Rodeo Road and everything else, well, if you drive them, you can see where they're starting to show the cracks. And so now's the time to do the maintenance on them before they deteriorate further. So, and then there's another process, and a couple of the roads that we're doing, Paseo de las Vistas and Paseo Real, those are all what we call PP&C, which is process, place, and compact. You go in and we completely pulverize all the asphalt that's there. We blend it back into the existing base course or subgrade that was underneath there. We use it as a base course, and we place it. We regrade it, we put a crown onto it, we get proper drainage onto it, and then we go in and we repave it. Of course, when you do that, your cost is a little bit higher because your paving is your expensive portion of this. When you do a PP&C, you're putting in 3, 4, 5 inches of asphalt instead of just 1.5 inches. So the Paseo de las Vistas, that's why that section of road is costing basically $1 million, because when they get to that point, your cost doubles or triples. And so, you know, those are the processes we use. The way we come up with the roads is we have a master road list, and we try to update it as often as we possibly can. And most of the roads in Santa Fe are in poor condition, you know, and so that's something that needs to be addressed. The way we identify the roads that we put on the list when we do get funding is I meet with Marcos, like he said, we try to determine the roads that are taking a lot of maintenance and stuff, and then we also look at it from the traffic volume on the different roads, the higher volumes, and we try to address those. At this point in time, those are mainly the roads that we're addressing, and a lot of the residential areas are starting to deteriorate quickly, and that's where we're trying to use crack seal to prolong their lives. And that's basically the process that we use for the mill and fill when funding is appropriated. So. Well, the necessary, at this point in time, there's no reoccurring budget for road maintenance. We don't have a budget to go in and rehabilitate roads every year. And so it's hard to put together a maintenance plan when you don't know if you're getting money every year or not. And that's the key problem at this point in time. Right now, I've provided a list of over $30 million worth of road rehabilitation that needs to be done. And if you gave me another month, I could provide another $30 million list. That's the condition our roads are in. And so it's something that really needs to be looked at and addressed. And I realize it's always hard when to come up with that type of funding, but if you had reoccurring funding, you could put together a program where bits and pieces could be done and it would work. So yeah, that's basically the condition where we're at. Thank you.
And as our last slide, we just wanted to make everybody aware of how to report a problem of anything with the right of way, sidewalk, pavement, signage, street lights. And the best way to do it is to do it online at the City of Santa Fe's Constituent Services website. This team pulls work lists from that constantly. And so it's a great way to just submit it, submit your work order. It's probably not a great idea to call some old phone number you used to have. This number here is 955-6949. That's our constituent services line. Someone will definitely pick that up or take the message. There are a lot of empty desk phones around the city, so it's probably just not going to be really successful, but this works super well. And that's our whole presentation, and we're available to answer any questions for the committee. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Director Wheeler. Thank you for being here, team. I think hearing directly from you is really powerful and helps us understand just like the depth of your work and your commitment despite having adequate resources, which I think was very evident. So thank you for your effort in making up for the lack of resources you have and still doing what you can to accomplish the work across the city. So thank you. I just wanted to say that I'm supposed to turn it over to the committee first for questions, but I just wanted to acknowledge that. I think it's important. But questions from the committee? Counselor Michael Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Trujillo, Mr. Esquivel, and Mr. Brooks, thank you to you and your teams. You are all the work that keeps the city going. You are all kind of the unforgotten heroes that gets the work done. But unfortunately, you are also the folks that hear it first when the work is not getting done right. So with that being said, thank you. I want to make sure you recognize that the work is getting done. And, Mr. Esquivel, Mr. Trujillo, if I can clone you and give you 50 workers, I would do that just because there is much more work than you have the capacity to get done. And I acknowledge that as well. And so I guess I got a question for Mr. Trujillo because you brought it up in regards to could we do better with more? And that's always the question. What does more mean? And does that mean more equipment, more people power? What is more? Because ultimately, I can only speak for myself, but I want to get you more, whatever it does, whatever it is, to ensure that that work gets done. I know that, during the snowstorms, we just don't have the capacity. It's one of those things. The snow comes in sometimes very quickly and creates a mess of everything. And it's not as easy as deploying all your team to get everything cleaned up because sometimes it's just not that easy. And so the question is, how can we help you get more, whatever more is? You didn't really define what more is, but how can we help you get more? And what is more? If you can define, does that mean more plows, more people power? What is more?
Well, definitely more, more money for more material, more money for more equipment, more money for budget for salaries, which means more employees. I mean, I've had several discussions with Regina and my team about, you know, back in the day, we used to run in patching and asphalt crew alone. We used to have a north patrol and we used to have a south patrol. As we all know, the city limits are getting bigger. We're getting annexations left and right. We're getting roads that are being accepted, whether they were once private and now they're ours to maintain. With a north patrol, I mean, we're always wondering about, well, if you're patching potholes, who's doing the mill and fill of roads that we're capable of doing? Well, we're the crew, that's it. Sometimes we have two crews, concrete crew and patching crew come in and work. Concrete crew and drainage crew doing sidewalk work together. Drainage crew needing help in areas that we need to bring in another crew to take care of that. Where we're doing services for one section of the department, we're lacking on that the next day or the day after or week after. You know, like I said, if we had North Patrol and South Patrol for asphalt, we can have one crew filling potholes on the north side for a week, crack seal being done on the south side, helping out with the preservation of the new asphalt that we've done in all the districts. Snow removal, you know, it's always about how come you guys haven't hit these roads in a timely manner. You know, you have one truck per area. You know, if we're able to get more people, more equipment, and we go into the summer, spring, summer, early fall operation, North Patrol, South Patrol, asphalt. Same thing with helping out with concrete drainage. Come winter, we can literally, I tell Regina all the time, it would be so nice to put two truckers, two operators in each district. You know, and that way, and that's per shift. If we had two people in hotspots, we can do a hotspots north, hotspots south. You know, but that's more equipment, more money for material, because we're covering a lot more of the city. More people, you know, more bodies to fill and help out with these operations. And sure.
Thank you so much for that, Felipe, and committee members for that, for Councilor Garcia for that question. We actually did just develop a request, very specifically what the Streets Division needs for more is replacement of vehicles that are from vintage 2006 and older. So what that we have is no backups for the plows right now, which was causing some trouble in the earlier snowstorms where the team was underneath the plows fixing them rather than being out plowing. So we've asked for a number of plows to be replaced. We need street sweepers to be replaced because they're broken more than they're working as well. A loader, a small plow, 5 large plows. A patching truck for Marcos, of course, he's like, don't forget about the patching truck. I'm going to see if I can open this thing up because I just had it. We're saying if we could have anything we wanted, and if you really wanted to see a big improvement, you would have another crew, as Felipe was just talking about, so that we would have 2 pavement crews, and we wouldn't even need more equipment for that because we've got the crack sealing machine that one crew could use, and then we've got the patching machine that the other crew could use. So they could be swapping, we could be utilizing that equipment all the time with the 2 different crews and making much better headway. So those were some of the main things. And then of course, like Mark referred to, is at least $5 million a year for pavement rehabilitation. So that we paid a kind of out of everything, we think that would be the biggest bang for the buck, is replacing the old equipment. So we have some really reliable equipment, a crew, so that we could have we could always be working 2 crews on pavement. And then, you know, $5 million a year for the mill and fill.
Okay. And Director Wheeler, would you be able to provide the committee with kind of that laundry list, so to speak, with the costs associated? That way, as we're not only moving forward with next year's budget cycle, but as we look forward to planning for the future, we can make sure we have that information at hand and work to accommodate these needs. I mean, these are critical city services that residents expect. And I think that's one of our main duties as a government, is to keep our streets clean, keep them safe, keep people safe. And so I think as I mentioned earlier, when, when we're not doing that due to lack of equipment, Mr. Esquivel and his team here first, and it's no fault to Mr. Esquivel. It's ultimately the broader city's fault, the city government, for not providing you with those resources. So I apologize, Mr. Esquivel. And I think that's where we need to really begin to look at, as a government, what are our priorities? What are the necessities? And let's invest and make sure that these critical city services are fully funded. So thank you, Mr. Esquivel. Mr. Brooks, question for you. And first, congratulations on the well-deserved retirement. I'm sorry to be losing you, but I'm sure your family is happy to be getting you back full-time, and hopefully you've got a fun retirement planned ahead of you. And I just want to thank you for everything you've done for our city. Really, really appreciate that. You had mentioned that you had put together a list of roughly $30 million of road rehab, and that can easily be doubled. And if you can help share that with us, or share it with Director Wheeler, or directly we can share it with us. I think it's important, as I mentioned, in regards to the resources needed for Mr. Esquivel and his team and Mr. Trujillo and his team. We need to ensure that we're meeting the needs of the roads. I mean, that's also something, not only keeping them clean, but keeping them maintained. And I think one of the things we need to ensure, especially as we're taking over new roads, I know soon we'll be owners of all of Cerrillos Road after the state provides us, hopefully, with the brand new portion, between St. Michael's and St. Francis, but that means us taking on the duty of taking care of it. So I guess my question to you, Mr. Brooks, is in regards to that $30 million list, is it prioritized, or is it just, here's a list that needs to be done, or is it, this is way past due, this is crumbling and it needs to be done now, or is it, the question is, how is your list categorized by any means? Just that way we can begin to address the much needed updates to the infrastructure. And so if you wouldn't mind going over that list a little bit more in depth.
Right, and it's not a list that's really been prioritized. It's a list that's come together over the last 5 years, because like we say, every time we get a complaint from constituent services, our response to them is, we've got a list of roads that we're looking at, and we will add them to it. So anytime we get a complaint about a road that needs to be rehabilitated, we look at it, we determine, does it really need to be rehabilitated, or can we use something else like crack seal or fog seal or something to take care of the road? And then we make sure that that's added to the list. It's a list that's prioritized as per district, which there's kind of a glimpse of it there. And it's a list that could be prioritized very quickly. Two of the major sections of this road thing that are probably several $1 million is the finishing off Rodeo Road, Airport Road. About 4 years ago, we crack sealed it, where there's as many cracks in it now as there were when we crack sealed it. If we don't get to it quickly, it's going to go from a $3 million project to a $6 million project. The second portion of Cerrillos Road, we did a portion, I believe, year before last, but we need to get from where we ended up all the way back down into Airport Road, because if you drive it, you can see how bad it is, and the amount of rutting and the amount of time that Marcos and their crews have to spend on those types of roads. Those are the major roads, and those are just the major ones. But it's a list that if actually, I still got like 8 days left. And it's it's something that I could quickly prioritize for her, because it's something that's been in my brain for the last 7 years, and it's something that I should take care of before I leave. So I will make sure that she has that information, and we'll collaborate, the whole team, make sure that when we prioritize it, we're doing it in the best way that would be the best for the city.
Okay. Well,
Thank you so much, Mark. And if I could just add one more thing to think about, and it's a really excellent direction, Councilor Garcia, is that we use our contractors to do this kind of work. We don't have that big gigantic train of equipment, and they can only do so much per year. So we think about 5 million at this point. We could push 3 million easy. If we have it well, we need to have the money in January so we can give the contractors POs better even in December for the next season, because they're already booking themselves out for the whole paving season. So we think if we had the money good and early, we could get $5 million of POs into people's hands and get it done. Some of these pieces, like Mark was saying, you can see Airport Road here. Here's the piece on Airport. They said that it's 3 million now. If you wait too long, it's 6. They'll definitely be able to do this in one fell swoop, right? We'll just deal with closing. Well, no? Yeah. Yeah. Mark, they can't hear you. It doesn't.
the folks watching on YouTube won't be able to hear you, Mark.
Our window for paving is basically from beginning of April, because you think March, well, it's warming up and everybody's getting spring fever and everything else. But we still get those storms that come in that really hurt us. I mean, our temperatures need to be 40 degrees and rising in order to lay asphalt. And then again, about the end of October is when our season closes. So if we don't get our monies until July, like Regina said, we got our monies. I was able to do 3 roads this year before everything shut down. And contractors were already booked. And so we have already sent out purchase orders for our list for almost all those roads. And so we are on their list to try to get them done as quickly. But we're limited with contractors too, because a couple of these roads, I've got a contractor on a big capital project. Actually, I got 2 contractors on big capital projects, the Guadalupe project and the Agua Fria project. And these are the contractors that we use to build. So, it's like, and they're in the same situation as Marcos and Felipe. Limited amount of crews. Ever since the pandemic, it's hard to find crews. That's another thing.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Brooks. Last question, not necessarily a question. I see you got another team member there with you. Want to recognize everybody from the team. So if you wouldn't mind just.
He's with the next presentation.
Oh,
He
he's
looks
with
like he's
Romelli.
part of this group, but he's part of Romella's group.
Okay. I apologize.
Actually, it's a great point, Councilor Garcia, if I could. Cody is going to be the heir apparent of the Mark Brooks body of knowledge.
All right.
He's only been with our team 3 months. 3 months. He was in Public Works before, went to land use and did development review, and then now is back in the Public Works Capital Project team under Romella, and is going to be the new Mark Brooks for the next decade.
Awesome. Well, have that transfer of knowledge happen. That way, Mark can enjoy his retirement. So with that, no other questions, Madam Chair, but thank you, Felipe. Thank you, Marcos. Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate all the work you and your team do every day. So please pass it along to your team as well.
Thank you, Councilor Garcia. Any other questions? Councilor Lee Garcia?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very nice presentation. Thank you thank you so much for kind of laying it out to us, because a lot of times we have the same questions. Why isn't this road getting rehabbed? Why, these are falling apart. And I think that what I've taken away from this presentation really is in regards to the resources that we're needing to really tackle the growth of this city. I have a few roads in my district that are definitely falling apart. We've had the conversation, and I think that in this department, we do utilize contractors to do pavement, but when it comes back to to providing the services such as snow removal, getting out there and doing pavement rehab and some things of that nature. I think it's best suited if we can handle that in-house. And you really do need the resources to do that. It's not, you can't, I mean, couldn't rely on contractors to go out there and fix potholes everywhere. I guess you could, but the cost is just that much higher. And so I think that it is very important that we know these things. And because it all comes back down to funding. And the more that we are able to identify and put our priorities where the constituents for sure are reaching out to us to say, hey, I think that's probably one of the number one calls that I get in my district. And I'm sure the other counselors for the most part too, is that why are these potholes there? Why is the crack sealing? It's not happening. This pavement rehabilitation, it's not there. And it's like, what's going on? And so I think that that's really important that we focus on how do we address those issues which are coming directly from the citizens of Santa Fe. And so I think the only question that I might have, and I know that we've turned over to contractors to do pavement. When was the last time we as a city did any type of mill and fill type of services where we would actually go out there and repave streets with our own processes, whether they'd be our own equipment, our own crews that would go and do that kind of stuff?
Thank you for the question, Councilor Garcia, Madam Chair. It's the equipment that's a problem. We're talking about $1 million machines. If you see the train that does the mill and fill, it's just a gigantic investment from an equipment perspective. I don't know that we've ever done that work ourselves. We wouldn't have any place to put it. We wouldn't have any place to repair it. We wouldn't have any, there's just so much beyond our capacity in so many ways. One of the things that you'll see that the team is identifying as a real opportunity to improve the efficiency of the streets team is actually a maintenance facility. Right now, they have a big indoor concrete room that's about the size of this room and with a flat floor, and that's where equipment is repaired. So, and it's in the middle of the operation, so it's not super safe. And so we would just have, that's so far beyond. We actually just got a piece of equipment that's sort of borderlines on the same as that mill and fill equipment, which is our new paint striping truck. I think the team has been training on this machine for 6 months. They're doing some more training, and they're beginning to get confidence that they're going to roll it this year and actually use it. But that equipment is super complex. So I think, like you said, there's core competencies that we need to do in-house. It's pothole filling, it's plowing, it's, clearing out using a Vactor truck to clear out our culverts. It's concrete projects, although we do partner with contractors on that too. So I think we're pretty close to a good split of what's contracted out and what's done in-house. And we just want to get even more efficient and better at doing what we do.
Thank you, Director. And I again want to express my gratitude to the team. Mr. Trujillo, who do we have here? Mr. Esquivel and Mr. Brooks, congratulations. Again, I think that this is one of the priorities that most constituents have in our city, and I know there's a lot more from every department, but my biggest the thing that I would have my eye on is when you invest, what does that return look like? And, the end result is hopefully better streets, the community are driving on. When it snows, they're cleaned and so on. And those are it's the final product that really we're striving for, and all the things in between that get you to that point. It's tough. I have my own business, and you go through those struggles, personnel issues, and just availability of product. Sometimes you just can't have it. It's on back order because everybody is trying to get it. And so I think that supporting the department from our perspective is definitely something that I'm interested in looking at and appreciate all that you all do. Thank you. No more further questions, Ms. Madam
Thank
Chair.
you, Counselor Lee Garcia. Counselor Castro.
So I just want to echo everybody's sentiment that Mark Brooks broke our heart tonight. So thank you so much. But I am interested in the 80 miles of dirt road, and this could be maybe a sidebar conversation, but is it more expensive for us to maintain those than it would be to pave them long term? And is there any way that we can help you sort of think about the future in terms of equipment and what we might need? But again, I think that that's something that we need a longer discussion about and a lot more budget for. But it's something that maybe we could be looking towards in the future. Thank you.
Counselor Castro, if I might, Madam Chair, one of the roads that's like that is on the list for paving is Cerro Gordo Road. It has, what you'll find is that these roads have never been engineered for drainage. And when you have bad drainage, you have a road that just constantly needs maintenance. So that'll be a big win. It's probably a $10 million plus project. It's a huge engineering undertaking to try to manage the drainage. There's houses that are built down below the grade of the road. They're getting silt, as well as water. So there's a lot of roads that could, that are in that situation, and to undertake paving them all would just be massive. But definitely Cerro Gordo is one of the ones that's on the list right now because of its condition.
Great, thank you, Counselor Castro. I just have a few comments, or I guess I have one question. My question is around vacancy, or vacancies. I know that there was a comment made around salaries. Are we seeing that be like the top deterrent as to why we can't fill those positions?
Let's see, let's take a look at the org chart and be specific here. I would say in the past that the salary of the Complete Streets Division Director was a challenge, but I think the comp and class is going to take care of that. It gave it another $25,000, which we knew we needed in the top of the range. It was capping out at 120, and now it's capping out at 145 in the new comp and class. That'll make all the difference in the world. Our engineer, I can't say why that is. You can see the streets operators here. Yes, the maintenance workers, the entry level positions across the city, I think have been a challenge from a pay perspective. And I think the comp and class is going to help us with that. That'll help us with these two too as well. Permit coordinator and the administrative assistant are more entry level positions. So they'll be really helped by the comp and class. These two project administrator positions just came vacant because one of them was Mark. So that I think we've been we're working with HR. The fix there is to change the title so people understand what the role is. It's actually a project manager. And people think a project administrator is more of a secretary type or, somebody who pushes all the paper, which of course project administrators have to do, but they're really managing projects. So I think that's going to be a big win there. We've tried everything with these paint and sign techs. Again, some of these are entry level. I think the comp and class will help. And then, we'll just keep there. There was a huge delay in there being availability of employees out there, right? It was nothing to do, no fault of our own, but nobody wanted to be an engineer, it seemed like there for a few years. And so I think we're tackling some of that too, of just finding the right people, having them understand the role and what an opportunity it is to work at the city. So I think there's a sort of more comprehensive strategy to address this than just one thing, being salaries.
Thank you, Director Willer. And I'm glad you mentioned the comp and class because I was going to ask if you were aware of any positive impact that it would have on your vacancies. So it sounds like there will be. I think that you all are doing really challenging work and I appreciate it. It sounds like there's minimal resources for the demand that we have in our city right now. So, I know I said it earlier, but the fact that you show up and you do the best you can, thank you so much. And for Mr. Brooks, I wanted to see if you were comfortable if we all could shake your hand for your years of service and commitment to our city. I don't know if you'd be comfortable on coming up here and allowing us to thank you individually for your work. Thank you so much, Mr. Brooks. And just to thank you for the leadership. It's leaders like you that have passion for the work that's challenging. You know, and I'll say it again, despite a shortened resources that keep these departments alive and keep the work happening in our city. So I also just want to thank you all very, very much for everything you do, your commitment. You are the ones that make the difference. So thank you. Director Wheeler, thank you for the presentation. I know that I'm asking a lot of presentations, but I think we saw tonight the power of these presentations. They will help us be informed in how we could better support departments. And that's what I really want our committee to do, is inform the people that could create the policy that can bring the change. So you guys are talking to the right people, and I appreciate your time tonight. All right, I think we are ready to move on to our next agenda item, which is another presentation, informational item. We have a presentation on Complete Streets capital projects. And our Complete Streets capital projects manager, Romello Glorioso Moss, is here to present. Thanks for being here, Romello. I think the mic is off.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Public Works and Utilities Committee. And thank you for the opportunity to update the committee on the Complete Streets capital projects. So last year, we managed 23 capital projects, of which 19 are roadways. These roadway projects consist of 9 road reconstruction projects, 8 intersection improvements, 1 bridge, and 1 underpass projects. In addition to 19 roadway projects, we work on 4 trails and 1 bicycle wayfinding signage. In 2024, we will work on 25 capital projects, of which are 20 roadways, 4 trails, and 1 bicycle wayfinding signage. These 25 capital projects are in 3 main phases of development. The first is the planning. There are 3 projects in this phase, 14 projects in design phase, which means engineering design phase, and 8 projects under construction, of which 2 are significantly complete. Just to compare it, 5 years ago, in 2019, with a division director, an engineer supervisor, 2 project administrators, and 1 ADA coordinator, we work on 6 projects. In 2020, that's when we lost our division director and engineer supervisor. And from 2020, our acting division director is the department director, Regina Wheeler. From 2020, in 2021, we almost doubled our projects from 8 to 14. In 2022, 16 projects. In 2023, 23 projects. And in 2024, 25 projects. In late 2022, we restructured our division. We used to have 2 divisions, the engineering division and the streets division. It was combined in late 2022 to call Complete Streets division. In last year, we had 6 projects constructed or not constructed. We finished the construction of West Alameda Culvert Emergency. And we finished the Phase A wayfinding and the bridge deck rehabilitation. The Camino Entrada roundabout and the bridge deck rehabilitation, they are significantly complete. What it means is that we still need to do the seeding phase of this project. So we will continue constructing this project this year. We spent 5 million in construction last year. This year, 2024, we will continue constructing the Guadalupe Street, reconstructing Guadalupe Street, and the Agua Fria South Meadows intersection improvements. We started construction of the Cañada Rincon Trail and El Camino Real Academy Trail this month. And we will bid out 2 construction projects in March. The Agua Fria Cottonwood Roundabout and the Tierra Contenta Trail Extension. These projects will cost us $21 million, of which city funding is 1.7%, which is $374,000. The state funding is $2.7 million or 13%, and the rest is federal funding, which is $17.9 million. This has a significant economic impact to our local economy. The population of the city of Santa Fe is about 90,470 people. So if we divide this 21 million, our investment per capita is about $235. The impact to our local economy and national economy is huge for construction because the contractors are usually local, and the laborers live around our community. Some live in Española, but Santa Fe County, etc. But also the impact of construction is huge nationally because most of these projects, 5 out of 6 of these projects are federal funded, which means we need to comply with the Build America and Buy America Act, which means the materials must be manufactured in the United States. We cannot get that materials from China, especially iron, steel, glass, paint, etc. So what are the funding sources? For 2023, we had $43 million in funding last year. 6 million has been spent last year. City is 7.2%, state is 26.8%, and the federal funding is 66%. You have also in your packet the detailed list of our capital projects. If we build all those projects, 25 projects, I think we will need to about $200 million, which delivers safety, equity, comfort, economic development, healthier environment, and better quality of life. Fortunately, there is a number of funding sources. For this year, we started with capital outlay. There is local government road funds and municipal arterial program, which is, the deadline is on March 15. The transportation project funding, the deadline is in April. The recreational trail program, I just submitted our project proposal today. The congestion mitigation air quality, transportation alternative program, and the SS4A and HC. These are huge funding sources. These are federal. So for example, the SS4A, the limit is $20 million. So we're reserving that funding source for our multi-million-dollar projects like St. Michael Underpass, which is at 60% design, needs like $15.5 million to construct. Raise, not yet, because maybe some of you are asking, what are our sources of documents for applying for project funding? There are three main planning documents that we use. The first one is the Santa Fe Metropolitan Planning Organization Metropolitan Transportation Plan from 2015 to 2040. There are 20 projects identified in that plan, and we are working on 14. The next one is the Infrastructure Capital Improvements Plan 2025 to 2029. There are 80 projects that are identified in that ICIP, of which 24 are roadway projects. The third one is the Bicycling and Pedestrian Advisory Committee Strategic Plan 2023 through 2033. There are 9 projects identified in that plan, and we are working on 3. So I mentioned earlier the Infrastructure Capital Improvements Plan. The governing body voted last year, which are the priority projects for roadway priority projects. The fifth city priority project is the Arroyo de los Chamizos crossing or Richards Avenue extension. The legislative funding request was $22.5 million, and unfortunately, we did not get a penny for this project. Council District 1 legislative priority was the Cerro Gordo reconstruction that Director Wheeler mentioned earlier. The request was $900,000 to design this project. We did not receive any money, any funds. This District 2 priority project is the St. Michael's Drive Rail Trail Underpass. We have a $4 million construction funding from federal government, and the request is $3 million for construction. We are receiving $100,000 from the legislature. The District 3 is Paseo del Sol extension. The request was $14 million. We are receiving $50,000 from the legislature. And District 4 priority is the Rufina Street, Lopez Lane intersection improvements. The request was $1 million to design the project. We are receiving $50,000 from the legislature. Our partners. The first one is the Santa Fe Metropolitan Planning Organization, which creates all the planning documents and prioritize projects for roadways and trails projects. The second partner is the Bicycling and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, which is chaired by Councilor Michael Garcia for 4 years now. And they help us review all the plan sets from conceptual design to 100%. Last year also, they passed the e-bike ordinance, which is the first e-bike ordinance in our state. It was passed before the state bill, the e-bike state bill. The third partner is the New Mexico Department of Transportation, which funds most of our projects. I think it's like for construction this year, they funded like 98% of our projects. And the last partner is the like other public works departments like Parks and Open Space, because capital projects construct these roadways and trails, but they maintain the trails. We also partner with land use because of the private roadways, private trails that they develop or part of the housing development. And we also partner with affordable housing. That's the end of my presentation. I stand for questions. Oh, I'm sorry. With my team, I work presently with Mr. Mark Brooks and Cody Killen. With the retirement of Mr. Brooks, Mr. Killen is replacing him, and they're both very good, very skilled. And I am good in paperwork. I push paper. I apply for funding. I do reimbursements, but in the field, it depends so much on these two people. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I could just add a little bit too. Can you go to the slide with the chart of how many projects we used to do and how many projects we do now? I just wanted to let the committee members know that this is really all due to Ramella. We invented this concept of this capital projects manager, which is a person that is, their responsibility is to seek funding to do planning for projects. So help, like she said, digest things out of the master transportation plan, the BPAC plan, digest all that, ICIP, and then look around and get funding. And Ramella has been one of the most successful grant leveragers. She never misses an opportunity. She's always got our priorities in mind, and she's finding where there's a fit between the funding. And so we were just so thrilled for the work. She does the work of 10 people. She's managing all of the, really Cody and Ramella are like the two that are managing all 25 of this, all $200 million worth of projects. So we can't thank you enough, Ramella, for your work and the resources that you've leveraged for the city of Santa Fe. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Director Wheeler. I agree. Ramella, you're amazing. I think we always get excited when you're up here because you're just so dedicated and you have so much passion about this work. So thank you. Thank you, Cody. It seems like you guys are a great team and I'm really excited. I think we had 2 items on our consent agenda where Complete Streets really meets the needs of those. We want to increase accessibility. We want to increase equity and safety and quality of life for all, which is a key component, I think, to Complete Streets. So important work. Thank you. For the presentation, are there any questions from committee members? Councilor Garcia?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not really a question, just commentary. Thank you, Ramella. Director Wheeler hit it on the head in the sense that you just know where to go to find all these resources, and then you've got the specific skill set to apply for them. Applying for grants is not an easy job. It requires some specific a mindset to get it done. So whatever magic you're doing, keep it up. I appreciate it. You really need to be applauded for all this work that you're doing. And Cody, now that you shift to another position, we need to make sure Ramella's got some support. So wish you well, Cody, into the next gig. But yeah, kudos to you and your team, and onward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Counselor Garcia. Any other comments? Counselor Lee Garcia?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and just also some comments to appreciate the work that you do, Ms. Claudia Somas and the team. I think with some of the data that you provided in regards to the funding, it seems like, you know, I think in one slide you showed where the city put forth 374,000, but the state was 27 million and federal was 17.9 million. And I think that kind of goes to show how important it is to have somebody tracking this funding, as Councilor Michael Garcia stated, and getting the money for the city, because we couldn't fund a lot of these projects without that. I think in one of the slides you did mention that we were on track to spend 43 million, but we only spent 6 million. What was the reason for that? Was it just projects that were on hold, contractors not available, projects maybe not ready to shovel ready? I just maybe pinpoint that a little bit.
This funding is from conceptual design through construction. So last year, in addition to $5 million that we spent for construction, it's about 1 million for design. So the 21 million that we will spend for construction this year will come out from $43 million.
Okay, yeah, that was just kind of looking at those numbers, and it's a big spread between what was spent and what the total appropriation is. So just kind of wanted to see where we're at with that and what was the holdup on it.
If I might add to that, Madam Chair, Councilor Garcia. So what happens is these are multi-year projects, really multi-year, so 5-6 years from beginning to end. And so sometimes the money we have in hand is funding a couple of 3 years of work. And so that's why you'll see that. And it's a really interesting number to look at and think about. That gap is like, well, could we go faster? Could we spend more faster? Is an interesting, and the processes, and Ramela didn't mention this, but this federal and state money comes with the most unbelievably rigorous processes that the projects have to follow with respect to how it's designed and how the public is engaged and all the reviews. And then she even has to defend the designs and the process in front of committees that review us and audit us constantly. So we might be going almost as fast as we can, but I am always looking for that, as you are. How much money did we actually get out in the community, and could we go faster? So that it's an interesting question, and something that we can look at.
Yeah. And from conceptual design through construction, some of these 6 construction projects that we are just constructing this year, the design started 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And so the federal government changed the policy, I think this year. The policy used to be the agency has only 10 years to complete the project. And if you did not complete that project, you have to return all the money, all the funding that you already spent. And so last week, the 3 of us attended the federal certification training to manage federal funded projects. And we have now 20 years to finish a project from conceptual to construction.
That's thank you very much. That's very interesting, because I think a lot of times we want to look at efficiencies and how do we roll this out? And a lot of times by just, it takes so much to check the boxes and make sure that everything is done right. And I get that. I mean, it's great to have the quality and I think that's where in our building processes and, whether it's construction roads or building buildings or doing things, I mean, we're engineering, hopefully we're engineering things to last, a long time. I look at an old Adobe house that was built way back when they didn't have all these engineering standards, and it's kind of still standing, but it's crumbling, right? And so, anyway, I think that the only takeaway from that I can see is that the longer it takes to complete a project, the higher the costs come down the future, whether it's labor costs or construction materials or things of that nature. And I think those are some of the things to keep our, you know, how do we expedite some of these projects to get them done, not only just to roll them out for the community, but to not end up having to increase, you know, whatever the contracts are to build them out. And so those are all the questions I had, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor Lee Garcia. Any other questions from the committee? All right, thank you, Ms. Glorioso Mas, always for your knowledge and hard work. Thank you, team. City team members, thank you again for all you do. Thank you for being here and giving us this information. I think it was very valuable. So please know that. I think it'll guide us in the right direction to support you how we can. So I appreciate you. I think we can move on to our next item, which was consent, but nothing was pulled from consent tonight. We have no action items for discussion, no executive session, so we are at matters from staff. Director Wheeler, we'll start with you.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I just want to let the chair know and the members of the committee that I'll be away for 3 weeks on vacation starting on Saturday. So we're working with Jamie Ray Diaz, who is the staff facilitator for the meeting, and of course, Director Dupuy, who can support the meeting while I'm gone.
Well, we hope you enjoy a very well-deserved vacation. Thank you for that. Matters from the committee. Any matters from committee members this evening?
You have a quick thank you. Speaking of Mr. Dupuy, Councilor Lee Garcia and I were fortunate to get a tour of the wastewater treatment plant this week, and it was very exciting. And I encourage anyone out there who's interested to go take that tour. You can just call and schedule it. It was very enlightening.
Thank you, Madam Chair, if I may say something on that topic. And yes, it was very very interesting. I think that most people really don't know how it works until you actually see how it works. And so, you know, I would encourage, as Councilwoman Castro just stated, if you are interested in seeing what the wastewater treatment plant, what it does, like truly does, how it process works. And that leads me into back to funding and things, you know, on track to possibly build a new one in the future. And I think that that's going to be a huge undertaking, but just seeing how ours is working now and the nuts and bolts, I do encourage people to go out there and take a look at it. It's your wastewater treatment plant. That's where everything goes to get put back into the river. So very interesting. The staff there, thanks to Mike Dozier, Director Dozier, and Director Dupree, he showed up and went through the tour with us. Fred Heerbrandt, the engineer, and so had a lot of information to give to us, because just like streets, you don't know how it works until you actually have it explained to you. And these are the reasons why. And us as a city, that's how we can prioritize from our perspective what goes back, and it's through funding and it's through us prioritizing these projects. And so I do want to also say kudos to that, and maybe at some point possibly schedule a tour out there from the committee. So
Thank you, Councilor
Chair.
Lee Garcia and Councilor Castro. Matters from chair, I think that's a great idea. I think we have a lot of presentations coming up, and with Director Wheeler's absence, we're going to get some presentations from Director Dupuy's team. And I think maybe having those presentations take place at facilities and then following up with a field trip would be something our committee would be interested in. Director Wheeler, if you could pass that to him. I'm hoping to find time to meet with you guys this week, but if that doesn't happen, if you could do that for me. I just wanted to shout out our directors. I have been requesting a lot of presentations. Director Wheeler has really jumped on board and has put together a calendar of presentation proposals. I will be sharing them with team members to see if you all would want more information. So we really want to be as informed as possible as a committee in order to create the change and direction that needs to occur to better support departments under Public Works and Utilities. So that communication will be coming from me, but I just really wanted to highlight the organization and work of Director Wheeler and Director Dupuy, and, you know, really highlighting some of those key areas and being willing to bring team members to present. So thank you. Next meeting is Monday, March 4th, 2024. Thank you everyone for being here and have a wonderful night.